One. Happy, I don't know, whatever makes you feel joy, I guess. Whenever you're watching this video, if it's a bad day, hopefully it turns good. Welcome to Richard and Karl present Deep Space and Dragons. I'm somebody.
And I am the other somebody, and I'll leave it up to you to figure out which one of us is which.
I believe in their abilities. Somewhat. No, I don't. So, before I get into the topic of topics, and before I hunt down your opinions on hunting things, what's new in the world of Karl?
Actually, this has been a pretty boring week. I did get a chance to go swimming. That was pretty cool. I love swimming. The daylight savings happened, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just a minor annoyance where everybody else shifts their times, and I just keep chugging along doing what I'm doing.
Oh, Saskatchewan, either you're so far behind that we didn't ever get to daylight savings, or you're actually ahead on this one.
We don't really need to rant about daylight savings again, because we have already ranted about how daylight savings kills lots of people in a variety of indirect ways.
I mean,
but
also one direct way. There's people who just wake up and their hearts stop.
I was reading. I was trying to figure out actually which is more dangerous: vending machines or daylight savings. I found some stats on daylight savings. It's like apparently the Monday after the spring forward for daylight savings
is the purge.
No, there's 25% increase in cardiovascular related events on those days because people just don't get enough sleep and end up
dying.
But unfortunately, the first article I found about vending machines was talking about how bad they are because you can't read the labels on your candy. And I was like, well, that's not why vending machines are dangerous. They're dangerous because people rattle them and then they fall over and kill people. And
actually, to be fair, as you've pointed out before, as my most likely cause of death is my office job, not reading the sugar content in your candy is probably actually far more likely to kill you than the vending machine falling on you. I'm just going to eat this. Like the vending machines, if they had you had to tap your ID and you're only allowed a certain number of calories a day or it cuts you off, would be dystopian but save lives.
What's new with you, Richard?
So I got back from reading week and then school hit me So I love to give the I'm not overwhelmed or underwhelmed, I'm just whelmed speech. And my workload is very whelming because sometimes I have to remember I'm working 24 hours and then a full-time student. And then with 3 hours of transit, I don't really get to have a life when I have things I need to do.
Right.
Thankfully I'm in school for things I'm passionate about, so it's oh no, I guess I have to go write an essay on why Chaucer, the people who annotated Chaucer's stories are actually vital historical sources. And by I had to, I mean I got to, because Chaucer's surprisingly entertaining once you get past the Middle English or Modern English. So it's assignments. Are you being sarcastic? No, I legitimately like assignments. Do. So that's what I did. I did assignments. Yeah. Writing papers. That's it. That's literally all that's happened in the last 3 weeks.
Wow, no surprise D&D or other random student events?
So, tons of student event prep work because I run 3 of them next week. But I haven't actually other than the fact I have to go at the open house and run these coffee chat pathway talks, it's basically not entertaining for our poor listeners to hear about me scheduling conversations to pathway between general arts and sciences and creative writing and publishing. I could definitely start talking block credits, but that just seems kind of cruel.
I suppose that doesn't really sound like an entertaining topic.
Could you imagine if you were watching a story following some upbeat, spunky protagonist like me and you through a series of adventures, and then you just have to sit there and listen to 500 people be introduced one at a time to talk about their mundane day jobs? How terrible that would be.
That sounds like the current plot of Hunter x Hunter.
I thought I nailed that segue. Oof. So I'm going to start with here's where I'm going to start our unhinged Hunter x Hunter rant. Because, we can't really good cop and bad cop. I think it's actually going to be John Wick versus John Wick, with both of them having killed each other's dogs. Like, Hunter x Hunter made some enemies. So first off, I read the new chapter, and the new chapter of Hunter x Hunter didn't have Gon, Killia, Kurapeka, Liero, or any named characters from the first 5 seasons of Hunter x Hunter in it. Imagine, if you will, you're reading a book, and it's book 7, like, say it's the last Harry Potter book, and you read a chapter of Harry Potter, and there isn't a single character that's been established through books 1 through 5, or 1 through 6. How does it exist? Like, how is this even possible?
Well, I think after the
I guess we should probably, like, give any summary of Hunter x Hunter before we start deep diving and dissecting why I hate it.
Well, yeah. So what I was gonna say is after the Greed Island arc, I think the author wanted to write something else, but just couldn't for some reason. I don't know.
Well,
is too scared to branch out into something new.
So,
like, I don't know, but
between catching up on Hunter x Hunter and going through JoJo's, weirdly, JoJo's has more continuity between plot arcs. But
yeah,
let's loop back to the very start. So, Hunter x Hunter, the X is silent. I just felt the need to state that because that's shockingly a true fact. So, we have our protagonist, Gon 12-year-old. His dad is gone. His objective is to become a hunter to hunt down his deadbeat dad, I guess for child support or whatever. Which is a very fair, logical motive, because in the setting, there's hunters. People you pay to hunt things, whether they be treasure, bounty hunters, adventure hunters. It's pretty much your D&D adventurer profession, but they're called hunters. To be a hunter, you have to pass the hunter exam, which is... The hunter exam... I don't know how... Hunter x Hunter's pretty old, but the hunter exam archetype works its way into, like, every show and anime ever made.
Well, okay. I was actually I was gonna my rant about the first couple plot arcs of Hunter x Hunter is, well, firstly, I don't know what was published contemporaneously, so like the competition, like Hunter x Hunter in the first couple plot arcs doesn't really do anything that stands out, but it doesn't really do anything bad either. Because, I mean, the sheltered but unusually tough, spiky-haired protagonist is a shonen trope.
1996 is when it came out. 1998.
But so it's like, it's a shonen trope, but it's also like a very effective to immediately, it's kind of like the whole save the cat in story building for, like, movies and stuff, where it's something that's comfortable and familiar, and people immediately are like, yeah, this is the good guy, and I can get behind them, and then they're also going to be my point of view for this strange new world that we're going to explore, which the Hunter exam, I mean, like you say, it's basically just the tuning exams, and I don't really think there's anything wrong with the first arc.
Oh yeah, so I'm going to give you some contemporation for you. So here's what was in the Show and Jump weekly manga where Hunter x Hunter debuted. One Piece was at chapter 30.
Okay.
Rurouni Kenshin was at 183. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was at 71. JoJo's was at 542 somehow. So, if that helps you put the timepiece, this is literally pre-Naruto, pre-Bleach, post-Dragon Ball, post-Yu Yu Hakusho. So, like, you're looking at this, and there is no Show and Jump thing running in here right now, right? Like, for, like, the typical show and action anime, it was competing with Yu-Gi-Oh!, which, if you recall the first 70 chapters of Yu-Gi-Oh!, those were a trip.
Well, yeah.
And One Piece hasn't even made it to Sanji yet.
There was definitely not much in terms of competition for the story that he was telling, I suppose.
But yeah, like, a lot of things that rip off the tuning exam are in fact probably pilfering it from Hunter x Hunter. Because Dragon Ball never had the 3-stage wacky combat exam promotion mechanic.
Mm-mm.
But Naruto had it. Bleach kind of had it. One Piece eventually has a similar one for a while where they do these, like, Davy Back Games thing. My Hero was based on it. My
Right.
Hero has no fewer than 5 tuning exams in it. Alright, so the first one is the UA trials with the robots, and you have to smash enough robots, but you have to also save people for bonus points. Then it has their provisional license, where they had to go stealing the buttons and do this and that to get their provisional license. Then they had the summer training camp. Then they had the other provisional license one that they did like after their internship, like the multi-school
Okay, so
one.
sorry, this is My Hero Academia?
Oh yeah, My Hero Academia had like 3 or 4 tuning exams.
Yeah, okay. And actually like the one with the buttons and stuff is like that's like a direct like comparison to Hunter x Hunter right there.
Oh yeah. But the thing about early Hunter x Hunter is we're finding Gon, introducing characters, and there's no real coherent plot other than, hey, let's enter this goofball tournament. That then gets weirdly dark out of nowhere, because it's like happy-go-lucky, you're not really playing to kill, and then his new friend Killia rips a person's heart out. And then Murder Clown starts slicing people's throats with trading cards. I'm like, yeah, this feels about on brand. So we go through the tuning exams, and we're like, okay, Hunter x Hunter's cheerful, happy times. He managed to steal someone's button with a fishing rod, and it seemed to reward clever solutions. And most of the contests required some thought. Like, there's even one where they had to fight the 7 condemned prisoners, and they got to pick who fought who. And I'm pretty sure it was like Lero ended up having like a rock, paper, scissors stripping match against one of them or something. I don't actually remember what happened there. But they had to go down like the puzzle pyramid, and then they had to wait in a waiting room and read some manga for a bit. And then you get to season 2 of Hunter x Hunter, like, alright, now that we've done our Hunter exam and put no thought into this whatsoever, and Gon is literally no closer to his objectives, I guess we're gonna follow Killia now, because we set that up, and he seems to be the most interesting in the fan surface.
Well, I mean, the second plot arc wasn't terrible either. I mean, it was basically just like a battle tower.
No, we didn't get to the battle. You skipped one. There's literally a bit where they have to put on like weighted training clothes and fight Killia's butler to open the doors to Killia's house, which are like weirdly anime-specific show and training doors.
Yeah, I did forget about the opening the doors of Killia's house because they have to go rescue Killia
from his surprisingly supportive family. I feel like that was the best plot twist to the Killia arc. Is his dad's like, "Oh yeah, go live your best life." And then he's like, "Sup guys? Yeah, sorry, I was grounded, but now because I didn't tell them I was off to the tuning exams, but now I'm free to come adventure."
I did forget about that. The weird training doors.
Well, what's funny is we get to the battle tower, another anime trope, which weirdly the Breaker did best. Just to give a complete random shout out, so we can put in the search keywords for this episode, the Breaker.
Yeah,
which
I mean, just as a side tangent.
Oh yeah, I baited you into this one.
I really did enjoy the Breaker, but I honestly I don't think we're ever actually going to get the next season. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, it's dead.
I mean, I don't actually know where to watch or to read Korean manhwa, I guess they're called. And they're not mangas, they're manhwa. But it's Korean, so I really, even if we do get another season, I really don't know where I'm even going to be able to read it. So it's like, or if it'll ever be localized. That makes me sad.
That's very fair. So, a moment of silence for the Breaker, including the amazing cast punch that I'm stealing for my third book because it's just so awesome.
It's so awesome.
So awesome. Straight up stealing that for book 3 because one of my running jokes in my third book is my protagonist no longer has healing abilities and immediately gets his arm broken and gets to spend the first 10 chapters realizing that it actually sucks to have your arm broken.
but anyway, so back to the battle tower, which again was another.
What's fascinating about the battle tower is like, okay, let's put in an entire power system, like 200 chapters into my series, sure, why not? But what's amusing is when they did the more recent Hunter x Hunter anime, because they had one anime that never finished and they did a second anime, they like went back and added in this power system into plot arcs and plot 2. It's like, oh yeah, we're just going to put auras around characters who are doing aura things because we know that was a thing, but I do not think the author knew that was a thing in any way, shape, or form until he's like, all right, let's create superpowers.
Yeah, I mean, like, given that the comic was started in 1996, you said, I wasn't reading it weekly, so I do have, it's a little bit of a different experience reading a weekly manga when you binge read a weekly manga, because you everything, all the information flows much closer together. And I kind of felt like it was actually a natural progression for them to find out about Nen. But it does become more. It becomes more and more apparent as the story goes on that the author didn't actually know what he was planning with Nen and their abilities.
So, on an unrelated side note, so in the newest chapter of One Piece, he did a reveal that actually was set up in like chapter 101.
Oh.
In like chapter 1101. It's like, oh, he did one of those things where it's like, oh, it turns out One Piece is post-apocalyptic rather than fantasy.
Huh.
And then he points all the evidence he's clearly showed you the entire way through. And you're like, yeah, no, that tracks. Like, the marine scientist guy's like, actually, I'm just an archaeologist, which is why we blew up the archaeologist village. I'm like, oh, yeah, that tracks. It's like, why do you think we just randomly have cyborgs? I didn't just pull cyborgs out of my butt. And I'm like, you're right, One Piece, you didn't just pull cyborgs out your butt.
Yeah, I really don't have much faith that the author for Hunter x Hunter has that much foresight anymore.
Yeah. So, when we get to the Nen system, though, so Nen is one of my favorite anime power systems, because it's a hard magic system, but it's my favorite kind of hard magic system, janky double-edged powers. So, they straight up say in Nen, it's like, first off, explaining your power powers up your power. I'm like, well played, show. And then they're like, second, the bigger drawback you give your power, the more power it gives you. And I'm like, okay. So, unlike JoJo's, where people's powers are just arbitrary as hell for no logical reason whatsoever, in Hunter, if you want to have a bomb that blows up time by an hour, you're going to have so many conditions and drawbacks on that thing, and then have to sit there explaining to your enemy your conditions and drawbacks to be allowed your nonsense power. And I'm like, you know what? I can weirdly get behind that. So like, here's your 6 categories of superpower. This time, I'm like, you know, this is a good power system. Because it encourages creativity and fun thinking. The problem, though, is it's a good power system if you're following 4 characters you emotionally relate to. Because it lets it develop. Like, you're like, okay, Gon punches things and has 3 brain cells, so his ability is to punch things hard. Oh, now he's went through training and he learned how to shoot things and slash things to get things in range to punch them hard. And they're like, oh yeah, and then Killy is a lying sack of crap, so he gets a lying sack of crap power and he gets to tase you. And they even like gave that like personality survey of like where on the Myers-Briggs your Nen power would come from. And you know me, I love talking with you specifically. Oh, what category of Nen user would you be and what power would you have? I love when my fiction gives me those tools. Like, I'm going to do that to you right now. What category of Nen power do you think I would have?
What category of Nen power do I think you would have? Oof.
I can pull up Hisaka's little cheat sheet if you like, where he literally says like what 2 sentences describe each person.
Okay, well, I feel like you'd be a manipulator.
All right, and it's like when they give the like when Hisaka says that bit, manipulators are people who specifically have one person they care about or a individual they care about more than everybody else, and are basically me. Yeah, no, manipulator is fair game. I'm either a manipulator or a transmuter, and those two are pretty close on the chartograph.
Well, yeah, because then it's like they have a whole thing about how if you're one specific type, you can easily learn the adjacent types, but they can't very easily learn the opposite type.
Where for me, the furthest thing from my power set is punch good, which anyone who's ever met me is like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
So what power do you think I would have?
Punch good.
What? Like, just straight to punch good?
Karl, buddy, pal, you've never manipulated anybody in your life. You've never tricked anybody. You've never committed to a lie for more than 30 seconds. And I don't know if you've ever filtered a thought. Like, I don't even think you've given me a lie of omission before.
Yeah, okay.
I'll be like, how are you today? You'll be like, oh, cold sore on my upper left lip. Been picking at it all day. Blood everywhere. I'm like, okay, well, most people would not tell me that, but sure, makes sense.
Well, I do love giving people mundane stories, and then they think it's going somewhere, and then it doesn't.
Yep. Where it seems like my Nen power would be like anything to protect my cat. Actually, I'm one of those people that like super loves love and then falls deeply in love, and then it ends, and then I move on like pretty much unfazed.
But like the Nen powers are interesting. But then we start moving on to the auction plot arc in Hunter x Hunter.
Because, yeah, the Battle Tower was a pretty good narrative device for showing off the categories, right? You're like, okay, here's our 6 powers, here's our things. So in the Fight Club, what was interesting about it is, okay, you get to learn what some of these other hypothetical powers are as our protagonists are learning their powers, right? Like, all right, here's a manipulator murdering people with Beyblades who lost his legs and is, in fact, a Beyblade. Let's defeat him with a fishing rod. So it's a very good narrative device to set up your world a bit. And then we get to the problem with it. So the strengths about having individual superpowers are it lets you tie the narrative to the superpower to the character, right? As Gon grows as a character, becomes more emotionally invested, more creative, this, that, you see it reflected in his power. Like you see Kilia's originally, okay, my power is cut and run because I've learned my whole life to cut and run. And then he learns to cut and run at something instead of away from something. So him being able to lightning his body to super run is very thematically appropriate.
Right.
Kind of like you get Kurapika, who's like, I'm emotionally unstable, and I want to avenge my loved ones, and I'm a needlessly elaborate conjurer, and I use super elaborate plans. So this is my chain that if you lie to and you're a spider, or you get a blade on your heart unless you follow my instruction, I get a blade on my heart. I'm like, yeah, no, great way to explain the difference between Kurapika and Gon. Kurapika has 10 superpowers that do 10 hyper-specific things, and Gon is yell, rock, paper, scissors, punch, followed by a punch. Or throw a floor at someone's face.
Yeah.
But, oh man. So, continue as we get to the auction plot arc, where they announce their Akatsuki. Which, yet again, this came first, so technically Naruto ripped them off.
Well, I think the Akatsuki, or the spiders, as they are in Hunter x Hunter.
Spider Akatsuki.
I actually really like the Spider Troop, because they are... I was thinking about the best way to describe them. They are neutral, evil treasure hunters.
They're petty.
They're okay with genocide and murder, but they're not just going around willy nilly killing everybody, anything. They're just a bunch of friends that want to find treasure, and if you're in their way, then you might die.
And that's the thing, is we love to talk about stakes a lot, where stakes of the world are lame stakes. But some assholes murdered your family because they want to sell their organs on the black market. That's a very personal stake. So it's like, us as the readers are like, okay, these spiders don't even care about Kurapika, because why would they? It was a Tuesday for them. But where things start to go south in that plot arc is we zoom in on Kurapika and introduce 10 other characters, and we stop watching Gon and Kilia are actually likable characters. Because we followed them for 300 chapters now, from their friendship when they decide to become friends, where Gon's like, I can be friends with a serial killer, sure, to them then going to Kilia's house to rescue him from their parents, then them heading to the battle tower to learn about superpowers, and then we just kind of like sideline them from the emotional core of the next plot arc. To follow Kurapika, who had like no actual screen time for like 200 chapters.
Yeah, he was just kind of, like, written out for a while. And then when he comes back, he just has a better capability with Nen than the two prodigies.
Although, that was kind of retconned away for a bit, for it's like every second he's in super mode, he loses a year of his lifespan. So,
yeah, well, I mean, that comes back to our old topic about how do you tell how much lifespan your hot dog has taken off.
That's fair. I assume this one's just like straight up cell degradation. But the problem here isn't with Kurapika's plot hacks powers or his vendetta against the spiders. Because we get to a point where like Gon and Killia get crossed up with the spiders, they're hostages, they're planning their escape. Gon punches a dude real hard. Kurapika meets the main villain of the show and just nerfs him for a while. And we're like, okay, you didn't actually defeat him, you set up a nice checkoff situation, and you introduced these side villains to be relevant later. And then 20 years have passed in real time.
Yeah. And even now, this latest plot arc is just such a mess.
So then we get to them arbitrarily going into a video game, which is a Hunter x Hunter video card game hybrid, which begs the question of why, mostly. Because they literally felt the need to spend like 10 chapters to introduce the new card game mechanics, so Gon and Killia could play this Hunter game, which is a stretch.
What?
It is a stretch. It broke my disbelief a bit that these 6 people had enough superpowers to make a fully virtual reality, but also real, teleport to play Sword Art minigame to train people how to be hunters, with no actual reason to do such.
Yeah, I guess when you step back and look at the plot arc as a whole, but binge reading it, I felt like it was refreshing change of pace, especially because it actually pared down back to our emotional core, Killia and Gon, and then all of the side characters that did get introduced, they felt like they were actively moving the plot forward.
So
which is where the next few plot arcs kind of start to really fall apart for me, is where they introduce side characters that don't feel like they're moving the plot forward.
So I'm a level with you. The Greed Iron plot arc would have been a great animated series by itself, and was a great Hunter x Hunter plot arc. But I think it would have been better if it wasn't a video game, real-world, hybrid trading card nonsense. Like, if they were literally just on this island to treasure hunt with other... Like, if it was like a structured treasure hunt, like, the same basic rules, but you didn't have magic trading cards that were made for some reason. But it was, okay, we found this video game, it teleports us in, let's do this Hunter Battle Royale thing. It's like, it's just... There are some hoops that were jumped through, and I'm not sure why they needed to be jumped through. Because we were equally... if the same events happened, but they were actually being hunters, like trying to hunt down his dad in the city or something, you could keep all of it without needing a second and third layer of exposition added on.
Yeah, I mean the video game console thing was a little bit weird, and it doesn't really make that much sense in context. But I mean, I still, like you say, it was a fine plot arc in a vacuum.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, it's definitely not at the point where you wouldn't skip it. So, during my last Hunter x Hunter rewatch, me and Panda, we skipped the Chimera Ant entirely.
Oh, that's too bad.
Is it?
Well, I mean, for all the discontent we're expressing about Hunter x Hunter, the star-crossed lovers plotline in the Chimera Ant plot arc, it's just one of the best star-crossed lovers plot lines that I've seen in modern fiction. I mean, it would be better if it didn't have any of the Hunter x Hunter stuff, but I just really, really got emotionally invested in the Chimera Ant King and the blind girl playing their strategy game.
So here's the thing about that plot arc. So there's a lot of things I like about it. So, Gon, Killia, magically teleport out of the card game, back into the actual plot of Hunter x Hunter. Alright, so far so good. Hey, we actually found a lead for my dad. We're following his assistant. Okay. The assistant was actually apparently introduced in Chapter 1 of the actual show, of the original manga, so it wasn't an asspull that he had an assistant.
Yeah.
The idea that you won a video game console at an auction that you then sold in a hybrid model to then play in the video game to go through to collect the trading cards to warp to him, that is some nonsense. That is some Eisen level. His dad's like, oh, I planned this, so if he brought a friend, he'd go to Kite, but if he went by himself, he'd come to me. Come on. No, you didn't. Come on. Even if you were actively stalking him, you couldn't have set that up.
Well, in the election plot arc, he does actually seem to show an incredible amount of foresight, but that's kind of stepping ahead a little bit.
Yeah. So we get to the Chimera arc, and we're like, okay, the parts I really liked about it. Gon and Killia in effectively sneaking into North Korea with Kite to do some actual hunter job stuff.
See what there's they're going into effectively North Korea, the NGL or whatever,
It
with
wasn't
Kite.
subtle. It wasn't subtle.
So they're going there with Kite, and then Kite dies to one of the Chimera ants.
A little earlier than I would have liked, honestly.
And like there was not the emotional stakes weren't there for how invested Gon got into his death, but that's another rant.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where I really this one of the things I hate the most is they stopped the plot to have this training arc that doesn't make any sense. And then like in world time, 2 months pass and the plot doesn't go anywhere within the world itself. They just keep adding more and more characters, doing more and more things. And at least for that plot arc, all of the bad guys had like animal traits, so it was easy to see when you were following the bad guy versus following heroes. But...
I mean, the bad guys are basically numbered villains. Like, it's like, I'm the king, here's my 3 royal guard, here's my 6 executive guards. Like, they're just like, okay. So, the thing here is, they're like, these Chimera ants eat people and turn them into monsters. Like, that's interesting. But you forgot to follow Gon and Killia for about half of it. And you're like, okay, there's this super invested story. Because as you mentioned, the unrelated manga of Perfect Cell, the ultimate murder machine, playing chess with a small blind girl, which is the one thing he cannot do, realizing that he completely defaced his pride if he just killed her or murdered her, because then she wins, because he never proved he could beat chess with her. As they have their deep emotional moment.
It was so... That part of the story was just so good.
But here's
and
the
I
so
mean,
what.
I really wish that it didn't end with radiation poisoning. but I really loved that plot arc, that plot thread of the Chimera Ant plot arc. The rest of it was pretty much garbage.
So this is what makes it interesting, though. So they were like, okay, here's our Perfect Cell, our villain we're setting up. And then we're going to have him fight the chairman of the Hunter Association, who we know as viewers is the most badass person on the planet. Like, specifically, like, that's his job requirement. But the problem here is the chairman fighting the King Chimera Ant had nothing to do with our protagonists or their journey or their goals, right? This is just a thing that was happening. So...
Well, and like, one of the other strange things about the Chimera Ant plot arc is... so they just completely stopped the plot to go into this training arc. And then Killia and Gon fail to achieve their objective in the training plot arc. And then it actually had zero impact on the story, because then they just sneak into North Korea, find some other guy that can help them with their plans, and join back up with the people who are planning on killing the Ant King.
And what's even crazier, though, for like just the narrative lack of focus, is we had a Chimera go to Gon and be like, okay, you have the strongest one-hitter-quitter move attack I've ever seen. I can go invisible. The plan is during all this, you jump out and just punch the king in the face. But that never paid off. Because Gon's actions did not actually affect the plot of that season. If Gon and Killia were not there, it would not have changed anything that happened.
There is one other thing which I want to give praise to Hunter x Hunter for, and that is that Gon is like the best example of a true neutral character that I've ever seen, because it's just like he never does anything because it's the right thing to do. He just does whatever he wants, but he's not chaotic. He's not evil. He's not really good.
I think we have him good. Like, at the end of the day, he can't actively watch someone get punched in front of him who's, like, being bullied. Like, he can't actively be a dick. Like, true neutral means, like, if you see 2 people punching each other in front of the street, like, you see an old lady being kicked by an old man. Sorry, a young man kicking an old lady. If you're true neutral, you'd have to know the old lady or the old man to get involved. Gon would get involved. Killia wouldn't. Killia would not care that a young man was kicking an old lady. But then Gon would go in to save the old lady, and then Killia would murder the guy because Gon's invested. Killia is true neutral.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. In any event, Gon definitely. If Killia and Gon were removed from the Chimera Ant plot arc, it would have resulted the same because the enemy was actually killed by radiation poisoning.
Mm-hmm. So it's just a weird chain of events where it's like, okay, we put in these side characters to show that, okay, Gon and Killia still have a ways to go, even though they're kind of awesome. And they both get to win fights, but Gon and Killia only really win fights against grunts until Gon pulls out a Super Saiyan 3 power-up out of nowhere that he's shown in no way, shape, or form that he knows how to do, that then turned him into a corpse for Killia's magic sister to heal. And I'm like, guys, you've had like 800 chapters at this point. How is none of these things set up in any way?
That's a bit of a hyperbole. They're only on 394.
But you get my point. Like, this thing was running for years. You would think that you would have, like, if you're going to have Gon turn into Superman then a corpse, you would have, like, set that up in some way. Like, if he had seen someone else do it, I would have been fine with it. And then Killia just had no impact at all. And it's one of those weird things where, like, okay, you up the stakes to the stakes of the world, so you could show some of these adult characters doing things, and then you killed off the adult characters doing things, killed off all the villains, murdered most of the side characters, so none of this mattered, and then you took Here's the crime. So if Hunter x Hunter had ended after the Chimera Ant, where Killia resurrects Gon because that's what Killia learned was, okay, my best friend's the most important thing, so I'm going to make peace with my family to save my best friend. And now I'm out of the story. And then Gon's like, okay, well, I lost my superpowers, but I'm alive. But I succeeded at my one goal. I meet my dad, talk to him a tree. The problem is Hunter x Hunter's still going. So Gon never really got to, like, finish his character arc. And he's still on the cover of the book, but hasn't been seen in 10 real years.
54 chapters since this latest plot arc started.
And it's just like, why would we be invested in new characters? Also, why are you making new characters?
And so many too.
Because, like, the spiders are still a thing, and they just haven't dealt with that yet. Hisoka's still a thing. Like, the actual antagonist that showed up, like, Chapter 1 for Gon to fight, and then they had a fight in Heaven's Tower, and then they played dodgeball together. How has that plot arc not reached a satisfying conclusion?
Well, because, they had to stop for the Killia's magic sister / election plot arc.
You see,
Which again goes to highlight the lack of narrative focus, because they were so unrelated, except for the fact that Ging was part of Ging, being Gon's father, was part of the election process.
See, the thing is, the election was set up where they're like, okay, here's who our top people in the Hunter Association are. And they had this whole thing of like, okay, the entire Hunter Association acknowledges that Gon went to fight the Chimera King, but also he's being used as a political pool. See, I kind of like that, actually. So Gon's in a coma because he showed up with the attack team to defeat the Chimera Ants where their president got killed. And both sides are like, well, I'm pro-Gon, I'm anti-Gon. Like, okay, it's still about Gon in a weird way, or people are like, okay, we're going to try and use Gon to swing an election. But the problem is they introduce these characters, and then it's like, okay, we brought Gon back. And then he just threw Gon in the garbage. It'd be like if Naruto died fighting Pain, and then they kept doing Naruto. Like, I just don't know how his editor allowed him to not have his protagonists.
Well, I think in the past 50 chapters, Gon has gotten, 5 panels.
And it's insane.
Pretty good.
And they're like, oh yeah, I lost all my superpowers.
Another interesting note about the lack of narrative focus. What's up with the King of NGL?
Who cares?
Because in the middle of the Chimera Ant plot arc, there were 2 chapters. The chapter where they're like, oh, the King of NGL is in the village where Gon and Killia are training. And then they did a whole chapter about how the King of NGL was abused by his parents and then decided to be evil and sell drugs out of NGL.
Oh, I can actually explain that one.
Really?
So,
because
Here's the point
from
of
what
that.
I've read, then like the dog chimera guy got really old, and he's like, that guy's our true king, and then he left, and that was it.
So the idea is that all these chimera ants had fragments of their memories when they were alive.
Mm-hmm.
The king of NGL got eaten by the chimera ant queen and became the chimera ant king to play chess with the little girl, then die. So the idea was, if I was following it at all, we introduce these characters, so then bring them back as chimera ants to kind of like do a whole reincarnation thing. I don't know. Also, they brought Kite back to life for some reason and didn't even bother to give her any screen time.
Yeah, I don't know if I missed something there.
I could be wrong. It's been a while since I did the chimera ant. Like I said, we watched the start of it. We're like, cool. Now there's like 50 episodes of people slow-mo punching each other while a scoreboard ticks up. Let's go straight to the election.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible he got eaten by the Chimera Ant King. If he did, I missed that in the manga because, like I said, the King of NGL was literally in the town they were training in while the Queen was doing her thing with the giving birth to the king, I guess. Gestation period?
Something like that. I don't know. Apparently, I looked it up because I was curious. It was not mentioned he was in the same town as them in the 2011 anime adaptation.
Huh.
So I just didn't even occur to that.
Yeah. Because it was so pointless. It was a waste of a week of printing, like because there was no payoff, and there never will be any payoff because now they have 100 characters on a boat.
So apparently, he definitely died and became one of the Chimera Ants, who wasn't listening to the Queen because of his personality. So apparently, let's see.
I must have just missed that because he was apparently just evil, trying to sell drugs to spread his evilness.
Absolutely no idea. I tried to look it up, and it never really went anywhere.
Oh, I mean that's just kind of seems to be like, because now we also have the 500,000 Nen pods of people, which I thought that Periston, the rat and the Zodiac of the Hunter Association, I thought he was gonna like try and go rogue and use the Chimera Ant Soldier Nen pod things to do whatever he wants to do. But now we've just been focusing on the 11 princes and their 50 bodyguards. And
so JoJo's can get away with this because they have the decency to change the title and have a genetic connection, because it's like, so in JoJo's, every season of JoJo's will have a drastic change of series, but they'll have the decency to introduce who our main protagonist is and let us follow them, right? So Kurapeka, we're not following. He's there, but we're not actually following him. Where we were actually following Kurapeka this whole time through these 500 new characters being added for some reason on this whale boat that's heading to the new world, which is the interesting part. Which somehow does. They somehow have a 24 boat that has our main villains of the spiders who haven't been dealt with yet, several of our main characters, and nothing has happened but introducing characters and Ned powers.
More and more Nen powers, more and more characters.
And to loop back around, the Nen powers worked because they're superpowers that's shaped based on the character's personality. Nen powers don't work as a writing device if we do not care about these characters. Because then they tell us nothing, and they're just random powers again. Like, we had Hisaka, who's had two powers, rubberized gum, and texture shade filters. And he's like, well, I'm a psychotic lying trickster magician, and I pretty much just murder people with trading cards, and half of what I'm doing is just throwing up in cardboard cutouts and gluing things to things. And that was awesome. Because he's a sociopath but he's also a stage mage, and he's very committed to his stage mage thing. Like, when he actually showed up 3 chapters ago in Hunter x Hunter, I'm like, oh, Hope! because he just didn't have his makeup on and just looked like a normal dude, and that's the hilarious bit. The funniest thing that character's ever done was like, oh, wait a minute. Literally every part of his disguise, including a spider tattoo, was just temporary tattoos. He could just look like a normal person to go incognito.
Well, I mean, something that's also a bit strange is for some reason, like, Hisaka's whole goal throughout the series apparently has been to fight the leader of the spiders. And then he fights the leader of the spiders and gets his ass kicked.
I wouldn't go
then
that
uses
far.
his bubblegum. No, he got his ass kicked. He literally got blown up and had to beseech his gum powers to restart his heart.
First off, he set that up in advance, which is just next level tech.
He got his ass kicked.
Anyway, so Hisaka got his ass kicked, and when the series decided to stop...
He got his face blown off. He got his leg blown off. I think one of his... No, I think he had both his arms, but his face and his legs.
So here's the thing about Hunter x Hunter. So we start following this boat, and I'm like, this is actual hell. And they're like, cool, want to go to Heaven's Coliseum and watch the leader of the spiders fight Hisaka? I'm like, yes, I want that. I get 4 chapters of that. I'm like, I'm deeply invested in this. And then we get back to the freaking boat. I hate the boat so much, Karl. I hate the boat and everything it represents. Because it's like, if this show actually only showed scenes that contained a named character from before the boat, it would actually be good. Like, I don't mind when it's Kurapeka trying to, like, protect his would-be prince on his mission while trying to find a way to lure out the spiders. Because Kurapeka fighting the spiders has been an established conflict. And I don't mind when a politician goes up to Hisaka and is like, hey, want to fight the spiders? And then he's like, of course I want to fight the spiders. What are you, high? Who do you think's going to win, me or the spiders? Like, probably the spiders. It's like, cool. Like those odds. Because he just doesn't learn, and it's great. But we have so much following nobody about nothing.
Hey, there's the prince that can stop time for 10 seconds.
Yeah, Dio?
Well, I mean, I think his power is slightly better than Dio's because he actually changes the future.
But it shouldn't be based on how the show's written, which is why it frustrates me.
And then he also has his parasitic Nen beast. So it's like they introduce the new world, and then everybody's
straight up JoJo stands.
And then they introduce this political conflict between Pariston and the rest of the Zodiac, and he basically goes rogue to try and go to the new world before the Hunter Association. I'm not... Because they also haven't mentioned Jing or Pariston in, like, 45 chapters or something like that, because they're just off on their own side mission to do the same thing that this boat is doing.
Which is so much more interesting.
But it's like, so they introduce the new world, and then they're like, oh, but there's also 11 princes. Oh, but there's also parasitic... but there's also parasitic Nen abilities.
Those are called stands, and they come when you're stabbed with the stand arrow. That is exactly what those are. Those are just stands outright.
They are just stands outright.
They even follow the same rules of being invisible unless you also have a stand, and oddly specific powers, and then coming out of your body to aura punch people. They're just stands. And Nen was a more interesting power than stands. I want to be clear. I'm pro Nen, anti-stand, but those are just stands. They just put stands in for some reason.
Well,
I'm not okay with this.
Like you say, JoJo's was at 500 chapters before when Hunter x Hunter debuted, so there's got to be some inspiration taken there.
Well, to be fair, like, JoJo's But Better is a completely valid strategy. Because it's dated, it has questionable logic, he invented stands because he ran out of ways to light punch vampires. But the thing is, what bugs me about JoJo's magic system is stands do whatever they want to do. And it can be as nonsensical as you want, and there's no power scaling or balance. Sometimes they'll pretend, they'll be like, well, long-range stands have downsides. Like, guy sent an indestructible turtle beetle at you that followed you indefinitely and exploded infinitely. Or, oh, he has a bomb that rewinds time by an hour. So JoJo's powers are just nonsense for no reason. Oh, you said the unlucky word, a beetle ripped out your tongue. In Hunter x Hunter, they even set up like, oh, as a conjurer you can summon a knife. But the knife you summon is actually worse than just buying a knife. But if you put specific terms and conditions on it, you can make the knife do special things. So like, for Kurapika, he's like, okay, I have a chain that shakes back and forth when there's bad guys nearby, but I can no longer tell lies to use my lie detector chain. Or I have a chain that holds black spiders still, but if I use it against anyone else, I die. I'm like, okay. So you're like, I have a superpower, but I've literally blocked myself from using my superpower. That's fair. Or Gon saying I have to actually chant out rock, paper, scissors, then I punch you really hard. That's fair. Or the chairman Netero being like, I have to do 10,000 punches a day to get the best punches.
The chairman was such a cool character.
Right, but then it's like, when you just give people powers without drawbacks, you lose what made the system interesting, and people on the boat just have arbitrary powers with no seeming restriction. Like, they forgot the restriction mechanic completely in the show.
But then they're still using the divining water to determine what type of Nen people have.
But they're like, just...
And it's like, does it really matter what kind of Nen they have? Like you said, that they're just speed learning this Nen for no
reason. It's like he just wants to introduce a bunch of arbitrary superpowers now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the main thing that gets me, is like, there's no motivation for any of this that ties into Gon wants to find his dad, Killia wants to be an adult without the influence of his family, Kurapika wants to avenge his clan, Liara wants his PhD in slow jam studies at Funktown University. None of these goals for any of our characters have anything to do with what's happening right now, and that's why I hate it. Hisoka wants to fight strong people. The spiders want to not die to Hisoka. They want to get their leader's powers unsealed. His leader wants to then...
The leader's powers are already unsealed because they found the Exorcist on Greed Island, which is why the spiders were there in the first place. Although, really, the author put the spiders in there to be like, hey, don't forget about the spiders.
Yeah. Also, so Hisoka could play dodgeball in one of my favorite scenes. You know what? I'm going to take back some of my Greed Island criticism. Sure, the video game mechanics is dinky and tacky, but you did have the Season 1 villains play dodgeball with in Season 2, and that's just amazing. Like, anytime you take somebody who's like a straight-up serial killer, like, yo, we need a third for our dodgeball team, and he's like, you know what? I'm down. That sounds great. Can we kill them? And it's like, no, but you can certainly try, because we're playing some hardcore dodgeball. He's like, yeah, I want to play some dodgeball.
And dodgeball, where if you don't dodge, you'll die, but if you dodge, you...
lose a point.
Lose a point?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't need the video game tropings, because Nen Dodgeball was awesome all on its own. But yeah, they just forgot to have characters in this season.
That's the main takeaway from Hunter x Hunter.
Is they wrote a Harry Potter novel without Harry Potter in it for the new season? Like,
it's just that it is really, really lost narrative focus. And I'm just not emotionally invested in anything that's going on anymore because there's so much going on that I don't know what to be invested in.
Well, let's put it this way. I, at one point, had a flowchart to track every character in World Trigger. I did not even attempt to track the new characters in Hunter x Hunter when they got on that boat. I know 800 plus Pokemon names and typings. I know every Digimon from Season 1 of Digimon. I know most of the hand signs in the Fireball Jutsu, and I cannot tell you who's in this season of Hunter x Hunter.
Look, there was one chapter I'm reading, and then there's a character who has a superpower. They're Patient Zero. They infect other people with superpowers. It's like, so I can give you superpowers, and then you level up, which makes me stronger. And then when you get to level 50, then you can give other people superpowers.
These are supposed to have downsides.
But like I'm reading, and it's like the 11 princes and all their guards and stuff, and then they introduced 23 characters that have unique superpowers from this Patient Zero guy. Mm-hmm. And I like that was 30 chapters into this boat plot arc, or maybe even 40. And it's like, really, 23 characters. Like, even Bleach didn't actually bother to go through all 26 letters of the alphabet.
So the Bleach anime is currently going, by the way, as they're covering this plot arc. And I forgot this had happened, but Kapachi rolls up to the main villain and just killed 3 of the lettered villains. So he's like, oh yeah, the first one was a little wimp. The second one I ripped out their throat, and the third one turned into me, and I had to fight me, and of course it was hard because I'm awesome. But then I just had to be stronger than me, and I beat up me, so now I'm here. And that whole explanation was like 3 minutes on screen. I'm like, oh man, that was beautiful.
That's right before he fights the imagination guy, right?
No, it's right before like the Quincy King basically nerfs him to a wall, and then Old Man decides to throw down with the Quincy King.
Ah,
they are
right.
speed running this thing. This is like episode 5, and we have Quincy King fighting Old Man.
Yeah, okay, but then Quincy King turns out to be a doppelganger.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But yeah, like, when you have less narrative focus in Bleach, who added in 26 lettered villains at once, along with not removing any other characters from the board. Like, they added in these villains, but then kept all the, like, new characters they added, like all the Vizards, all this, that, several of the wrong cars, Uehara in his shop. It's like, yeah, no, you just added 26 more characters in at the start of a season because you can. I guess 27. No, and then the Royal Guard, about 32. Bleach added 32 characters in one season.
Dude, random tangent, and then I think we should probably focus in and go to a random question. But did Bleach actually introduce all 26 letters?
I'm not certain.
Because I don't think so. I think they actually, like you say, three lettered villains disappeared, were killed off screen by Kenpachi. And like I don't remember, like, the letter Z, the letter Y, the letter X. What?
Oh, so I looked it up. So there was no K, there was no N,
Okay.
and most of the other ones did in fact show up.
Huh.
Z was the zombie, Y was yourself, X was the X-axis.
Oh.
So they all did, like, exist, but most of them just kind of got wrecked. Like, some of them got real fights, and other ones just kind of got owned.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, like I say, like I think we've ranted, had our own unfocused rant on how much we dislike the new plot arc of Hunter x Hunter, and maybe we should.
True, but here's the worst part, though, is if you just watch the Netflix anime Hunter x Hunter and let it end where it ends, it's actually a pretty solid show.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where does it end?
With Gon and Ging sitting in the tree talking about how there's a big world out there.
Yeah, okay.
So Gon succeeds and climbs a tree, no longer having his superpowers, went on his venture, meets his dad, they have a little talk about he didn't even ask why'd you leave us, he was more like, so it's like, so tell me about yourself. It's like, oh, I just love adventure. He's like, yeah, I love adventure. And they both sat in a tree and talked about how much they loved adventure. Killy had saved his sister. The spiders were fine, but they were never going to really finish that plot arc anyway. All in all, wrapped up kind of nicely. Letero had his doctor degree. They made sure to make him have one last cameo. It's a fine stopping point.
It was a fine stopping point. Although I will say, this is my final Hunter x Hunter comment. I am a little bit amused by the plot point that Ying points out, where he's like, yeah, this is the biggest tree in the world, but it's actually, like, growth has been stunted, and there's other trees in the Dark Continent that grow to the size of mountains. Also, that's where the Chimera ants came from, and it's like, the Dark Continent is so powerful that the ants could literally destroy mankind. I really want to go there.
Right, but also that was
we're not
kind of like
there.
but that was actually still a weirdly good place to wrap up the show, because it's like the world. Because the key takeaway was the world's such a huge place that even this, like, world-ending Chimera ant was kind of a low-key thing. I'm like, you know what, this is fine. Like, it's kind of poetic in a way to be like, the world's so big out there, there's infinite adventure. It's not a bad way to end your adventure series.
Yeah.
All right, so here's our random question of the week. And this week's winner will get a $15 gift card to my Waltz of Blades merchandising shop.
Ooh.
What is the weirdest thing currently in your fridge?
The weirdest thing in my fridge?
So,
I mean, we don't...
I'll start this one. So I have, like, a chili lime chutney. I bought it in a jar to put on samosas from the corner store. And it's like, it's like a green... I can't actually read the label. I just kind of looked at the color, and it was on the shelf near the samosas. And it's like, there's like some jalapeno-y, garlic-y good stuff in there, and I think mangoes? So that's probably the weirdest thing to be in a white guy's fridge. Racism not intended.
Well, I mean, cultural food differences. Like it's just kind of a fact that that's just not a typical dinner experience for North Americans.
It is good, though. It was better than the samosas, it turned out. Because I wanted to air fry some samosas. But did I stall for enough time for you to find something?
No, I'm pretty sure I just have typical white guy stuff in there. Like I got some pork chops, I got some mayo.
Oh no!
There's some hot sauce.
Actually, this is changing to a game where I'm saying yes to each. List off these things. I'll say if I also have them to prove they're just white guy staples. So far, yes to all of those.
There's some milk. There's some eggs.
Yep.
There's some cheese.
Yep.
Ketchup.
Weirdly, no ketchup in my fridge at the moment.
Huh. Yeah. I got some juice. I love using juice crystals and fruit punch.
I feel like I also have fruit punch, and I definitely probably have I have ketchup. It's probably just in packet form in the packet drawer.
There's some corn. I like corn. Yeah, I'm really I'm trying to go through the things in our fridges. We don't buy weird things. Even in our freezer, we don't really have anything that weird. This is we got frozen broccoli. It comes in the little steamer bags. You just put it in the microwave and it steams up. That's really good.
I finally got my broccoli coming out right on my air fryer.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Air fryer.
Oh yeah.
You buy fresh broccoli or?
Yeah, frozen broccoli right in the air fryer. Bam, boom.
Frozen broccoli in the air fryer.
You got to get it perfect, or else you end up with either crispy broccoli or not perfect broccoli.
my girlfriend is just sitting in the room here listening, and she's like, "Oh, air fried broccoli. That sounds delicious."
Oh yeah. I think I ended up putting it at 400 for 8 minutes, and I put in broccoli and cubed bacon, not quite diced, cubes, so it wouldn't go through the grates. So that way the bacon vapors would cook the broccoli.
But yeah, I don't have anything that is unusual for the North American diet. I don't think.
No pickled eggs.
No.
No sauerkraut.
Nope. No sauerkraut. No cauliflower. No dragon fruit.
Wow, you're just boring. And with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. And if you enjoyed the show, please purchase The Waltz of Blades or The Minuet of Sorcery, because each book sale keeps me alive slightly longer so we can podcast about things.
Yeah, podcasting about things.
All right. Well, everybody, have a lovely evening and have fun hunting down the hunter who hunted your hunters.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Hunter x Hunter had so many fun moments and good ideas, and then it's just and we're on a boat.
And we're on a boat.
My problem, I'm how did your editors read this and be can we have Gone, please? He's on the cover of the video game.